Here is the first of Paul's pedal ponderings. We're very conscious that the videos we're producing are a great souvenir of what we're seeing, but not how we're doing it or how we're feeling. So now what follows is an attempt to help you get under the hood or inside the machine as to how this adventure is panning out and how we're feeling about it. If you do know me quite well, you'll know I'm a complete doofus with things, with equipment. So far on this trip, I've managed to lock the bathroom door from the inside, despite being outside, so we had to go to Home Depot and buy something to be able to break in. I turned the oven on with my bottom, my arse. I also managed to book the wrong hotel for a couple of nights. Oops. There's probably some other stuff, but they're the more important ones so far. The toilet door was a problem. One of the things I've been very pleasantly surprised by is my level of fitness. I thought I would struggle here. I've not ridden a bike really in 10 years properly. I did, I think, 5 days or 6 days on the bike before coming, but it's enough to get me up the hills here. Nigel and Gary have been planning the routes based on a lot of research before the trip started, looking at companies that organise trails across the US, and then looking in more detail on an app called Ride with GPS to plan specific routes for specific days, looking at how quiet the roads would be, how wide the shoulder might be, how much hills there are, and really it's been magnificent. We've been on some old railway lines, we've been on some very old highways converted into bike trails, and we have had a couple of miles on an interstate, but really only where there was a zero option. So complete trust in an app called Ride with GPS and the work that Gary and Nigel have done. By contrast, we're using Garmin devices to help us navigate on the bikes, and we've had a mixed experience with those. In fairness, 2 of our 3 are quite old, but it's not as intuitive as we'd like. And then we're recording our rides on Strava, so anyone can see them, and that records our elevation and our distance every day. One of the things I'm most relieved about is the advent of tubeless tyres. There's no inner tube in these, it's just filled with a sealant. And if you get a small puncture, or even a medium puncture, you just keep riding, and it seals itself. I've had one reasonably big thorn, which went in, pulled it out, and 2 minutes later we were riding again, with no need to inflate tyres, and the tyre retained its pressure, pretty much exactly. Incredible, love that advance. Riding in a group is clearly much more enjoyable than riding on your own. There's more discussion, there's more to share experiences, to point at things we see on the way. And I love that about it. We're not religiously riding together, but we're trying to keep each other in sight the whole time. And if you're feeling strong, you go a bit ahead. Equally, we can help pull one another along and give a draft when necessary. That's definitely the way to go if you can do it with more than one person. The weather has been another surprise for me. I live in Cancun. It's pretty much always 30 plus degrees. This morning, and right now indeed, we're riding and it's 17 degrees, but feels like 9 degrees. And with gusts of wind up to 50 kilometers per hour. This is my summer vacation. I shouldn't be wearing a sweater and cold. What's going on? Of the more unusual experiences for me, and perhaps something I didn't expect to be doing when I turned 50, was being in a laundrette with an ex-partner from a Big Four accounting firm and a chief technology officer from a major bank, but also surrounded by Mexicans, all fruit pickers in the farms around where we were, in the Dalles. And that combination of the 3 of us bankers with the Mexican fruit pickers, I never saw that coming for this late in my life, but it's quite cool. I thoroughly enjoyed it. The scenery has been breathtaking at times, and I think I've been surprised at how varied it is in such a closely packed distance. Yes, we've done nearly 500 miles, but so many different landscapes already, caused by the rivers or the coast, or by canyons that are carved, and just the weather changes. So that's been remarkable. And some of the images I think are iconic, with my friends or me indeed cycling along the highways with nothing else around. It's been extraordinary. And the most memorable section, clearly the day when we had to carry our bikes over a fallen tree, carry our bikes around a big landslide, carry them down some stairs, and get a shuttle bus to take us around a bridge that was out. All within about 2 miles. At all stages so far on this journey, I've been riding with 2 Scots and an Englishman, a Scot driving the RV. And we've been watching lots of the World Cup. Perhaps not as much as we expected, but lots nonetheless. Unfortunately, Scotland, in whom we all became invested, went out in the group stage, but England is safely through, so we can watch them in their next match in 3 days. Difficult for me if we get through, and if Mexico get through, could be that England meet Mexico in the last 16. And being an Englishman living in Mexico with a Mexican wife, that one's tough to call. The other thing I think worthy of comment is occasional abuse here on the road as a cyclist. A truck driving the other way with no other traffic around, shouting, "Get off the road." Or yesterday, again on a quiet road, a guy driving a pickup, just driving along and gesticulating with a big thumbs down. Presumably not a fan of cyclists. But on the whole, the driving's very good and very respectful, and certainly much better than I find it in Mexico. So, good experience, but surprising occasionally.